Yo, this is Captain Usopp's game collection. Figured I'd show off some of the Captain's collection. As you can see, we got Soge King, we got Chopper. His bounty is extremely low. It will always be extremely low. Soge King's is much higher because Soge King has a Vita. As you can see, I have quite a few Vita games. And as you can also see, the cat is here. He appreciates the OLED screen, don't you, Smokey? He's like, oh, let me see monkey balls. Monkey balls, touch and roll. I even got a little parappa for my case. He's got a frog on his hat. Yeah, I figured I'd show off some of my games in case people are curious about the Captain's collection. I even have a few memory cards that I managed to pick up before they shot up in value, I guess. I was just looking at them a couple years ago, and I was like, you know, I should get a bigger memory card so I could just download all my stuff on there. And now they're like super expensive. Vita's kind of crazy. Hey, Smokey. Anyways, go through some of the games under the watchful gaze of the great Soge King. This is one of the earlier games I got. I remember I picked it up with my Vita. Kind of got my Vita to play Persona and Ease Oath, and Ease Celceta, yeah. I keep wanting to say Oath and Felgana, but it is not. This one is fun though. It's got an interesting gimmick. It's fairly short. The gimmick was fairly well done. Feels like one of the more original ones, but it was shorter. And of course it utilized the touchpad on the back. I liked it. I mean, when I picked it up it was super cheap. Maybe I still have the receipt in here. Oh, it's all faded. Oh, it's got my receipt for the Vita. Look at that. I don't know if you can see it because it's pretty faded. Come on, camera, you can focus on it, right? There you go. Yeah, I got my Vita for $100. I think I had to return it once because the first one I got, it had a scratch on the screen, which I didn't see until I was putting the screen protector on it. Actually, I don't know why this has Katamari on the receipt. Or, the receipt is in the Katamari box, but it's got the tearaway on there. That's weird. Yeah, that was all the way back in 2013. I'm surprised the receipt's still in there. Usually they're just like bleached out. Oh, and I got a copy of Final Fantasy, or more so the World of Final Fantasy. I picked this one up maybe a year or two after it came out. It was definitely before they decided to do the Maximum version. I played a little bit. It kind of interested me because of the Monster Collection. And then I had the PS4 version to go with it. I don't think I'm going to rebuy it again. Actually, I have the receipt in here too. It looks like I bought it from an employee named Pedro for $20.69. Nice. Of course, you can't go wrong with Lumines. Excellent puzzle game. I didn't play a ton on the Vita, but I remember it still being good. I think it might have had some new songs mixed in. I can't remember for sure. I know some of them reuse songs and some of them add new ones, but they're always, you know, classic gameplay. That weird, kind of trippy aesthetic, but fun gameplay where your button presses actually contribute to the background music. It's really neat games. Can't really go wrong with any of them. Then I got Sheeran the Wanderer. I think this was another late purchase, because it was before the Switch version came out and everything, but I played a little bit. The Sheeran games always get me. I'm like, oh, they're kind of fun, but then I never finish them, because they're kind of a time sink, but definitely a fun game. I don't have the receipt in that one. This is probably one of the last ones I got, is Tales of Hots. Oh wait, no, it's just Tales of Innocence. Oh yeah, I don't, never mind. Yeah, Tales of Innocence. R. It requires a memory card. I do have Tales of Hearts. The Vita ones, the portable entries don't seem to be the greatest, but it was super cheap. I figured I might try it. I don't know if my Japanese is up to par, but someday we'll find out. It's even got a rarity for a Vita game. It has, well, I guess an instructional sheet, but even rarer to see a manual. And then I remember picking this one up. Very strange concept. It's girls that turn into cars, and it's kind of like a Musou style game, but there's also like racing to it. Kind of weird. I don't think it really came out on anything else. Maybe it came out on Steam later, but I tried it a little bit. It was an interesting concept, to say the least. And I paid $21 for it, according to the receipt that's in the box. And then got DJ Max, or no, just Technica Tune. Yeah, the Max part is very small on there. I kind of like these. I like these games, but I feel like the ones where it forces you to use the touch controls are kind of weird. And I think this was the one. Yeah, it was this one. And then Sonic, you didn't really have to, but they're fun games. Nice style music to choose from. And I think the last game is in the Zero Escape series. I didn't really finish this one. I started it, and then I was really confused because you can kind of just pick a character, and it's like, oh look, they start talking about the character, and then the game ends, and then I'm like, I don't know what went on, but there was like an extensive flashback about this character. It seemed like I was supposed to know something. That's probably something I'll go back to. It didn't really catch my eye as much as Zero Escape and 999 did, but it might be worth a retry out there. And then I got Freedom Wars. Played a bunch of this one. I never got to play multiplayer because the online actually kind of sucked. Very laggy, but a very fun, I don't know what you call it, Monster Hunter style game. I got my receipt in there still. You go around, you collect monster parts, but you're basically tearing apart robots, and it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of society thing, almost like Mad Max. You live in like these communities, and you have to work off your debt, and it's pretty funny because at first it's like, you cannot lie down in your cell, you have to earn the right, and you earn the money, and then you buy the right to be able to like lay down in your cell. It had a weird sense of humor, very Japanese, but the combat was fun because it had like a grapple mechanic where you could use the grapple to both kind of stun lock enemies or bind them basically, and then you could also use it to like launch yourself around the map and then jump up and climb on top of enemies like Shadow of the Colossus, and then cut off specific parts if you wanted to like get, say, I forgot what they're called, but there's like these bipedal robots and they had like rocket launchers. You could cut off just the rocket launcher, or you could cut off a piece of its armor, or you could like jump on it, and if there's a person trapped inside, you could get them out. Pretty neat game. It was super cheap. I think you can still get it digitally, but it's definitely worth it, even for the single player content. And then there's Unit 13. This is one I got from the RLS because it was when I still worked at GameStop. You can see by the slash on it. It's the last game from Team Zipper, who made SOCOM. It plays kind of like SOCOM, except it's more arcadey. You basically have like these short missions, and you kind of pick a character, and you go through, and it's like, you have to either use stealth or, you know, you can go in and shoot everybody, but you get different points depending on how you approach it and string stuff together. Fun little game. Always recommend that one. And this game I forgot I even had. I picked up a couple of the Neptunia games, kind of random ones. I think this one was just cheap at GameStop, and I was like, could be interesting. I saw, what's his face on there from this guy, I'm forgetting his name now. But I don't know, some of them, I feel like the humor in them is fun, but the gameplay is always like hyper mediocre. But still, it might be worth a shot in the future. I at least own it. And Resistance, Burning Skis. Keep watching the skis. I don't remember finishing this one. I don't remember if I finished any of the Resistance games. I know I've played them a bunch. I remember this one in particular is kind of interesting because you play a firefighter in the midst of like the alien invasion, so one of the things you always have is your axe. It's kind of an interesting concept for a main character. Yeah, fun game though. And of course, Tearaway. I know I finished this one. I used everything on the Vita. Everything. It was actually pretty fun. I liked it a lot. Decent platformer. Used all the features in fun ways. I even bought the PS4 version, which is kind of like a very similar game, but it's different because it, uses a PS4 game, controllers, features, and all that. I still recommend it. It's super cheap. I remember when it came out, that Black Friday, some guy came in and he's like, I don't know, it's only $20, but I heard it's short. Should I get it? I'm like, dude, it's fun for $20. Like, you're gonna get like at least 10 hours of fun out of it, and it's like there's just nothing like it. And he's like, oh no, it's $20. It's like, dude, just make up your freaking mind. I'd say it's worth $20. I don't even know how much it goes for now, but I know the PS4 one I paid like $6 for it. Worth it. Man, actually bought the PS4 version to go with this because it has cross save. I was really excited about this one because I forget exactly who it is. I know it has Motoi Sakuraba as the composer, and I think it has like the scenario director. There's a few key members from like the Valkyrie Profile team that came back to try and make a similar game, which ended up being this, and it was a little, I don't know, it was a little wishy-washy. There wasn't as much, the dungeons weren't as fun, it was kind of felt a little more generic, and the characters weren't as interesting. They're just kind of like, oh, these kids get teleported to another world, and they're fighting a battle of gods. I don't know, it didn't really catch me as much as Valkyrie Profile did with its Norse mythology, and its very intense, sometimes, vignettes for each character. This one, you're kind of just like thrust into it, and the characters are just, other kids who happen to be in the same situation. It's not like you're coming across warriors and you get to see their backstory before you actually take their soul and make them your own hero. Not too bad for the price, though. If you see it for like $20, yeah, I'll say maybe try it. If you like Valkyrie Profile, you'll probably like it at least a bit. And one of those imports that I got because it seemed fun, and I didn't really get into it. You can actually play it in English. It's kind of like a Terraria Minecraft style game where you craft stuff and it's block based. This one, I think you're a brother and a sister who get turned into cats, and you're like trying to get to a witch on a floating island or something. I didn't get very far in it. It was kind of just like, you just do stuff until you figure out where to go or what to do next. Not bad, but it's just not my thing. And then we got Taiko no Tatsujin B version, or boy version, as I would say. I love all the Taiko games. I haven't played the Vita one a ton because I got it relatively recently, but they're usually pretty fun. Usually most of the fun is from the song selection. This one has Butterfly. That gets a pass in my book. I haven't got around to this yet. I used to play these games on the PS1, the Deception Saga. And I was like, oh, I should try it again. And then I bought it and never got around to it. And as you can see, it was from when the PS TV came out. I call it the Vita TV, but they like to call it PlayStation TV, which I find slightly confusing because they also did have a PlayStation branded TV. But yeah, they stuck the sticker on there. And they had the Sony rep came around and she was sticking them on the boxes just, illustrate the fact that you could also play this on that. Someday I'll get around to these. I remember them being pretty fun, like almost puzzle games, puzzle simulation management. You set up death traps and it's like, oh, you create a chain reaction, you get more points. And little Big Planet Vita, which I guess is getting its servers shut down. I had fun with this one. Little Big Planet games are usually pretty fun. I kind of feel like they hit their epoch with Little Big Planet 2. But, they're not bad. The Sackboy's Adventures is pretty interesting, though. I'll say if you have a Vita, it's probably worth at least trying, playing through, picking up. As long as it's not like insanely expensive. And there's Persona Wannabe, from what I understand. Like OG Persona, anyways. I never really got to play this one. I kind of picked it up because I was like, oh, it's cheap and I'll probably not be able to find it later. I think you're like a psychic detective who forms like these mental links with monsters, and that's how you get them to fight with you. It's been a while. I wonder. Oh, okay, so I got the receipt in there. Yeah, $17.99. And then we got Sorcery Saga, Curse of the Great Curry God. I think this came out on other platforms, but I kind of just bought this just based on like the premise alone. Because usually the Compile Heart stuff is like pretty mediocre. But this one I'm like, it's a mystery dungeon game. It's a little bit on the easy side. I don't think I ever finished it, but you basically like this little, what was his name, Pooh or something? It's like a curry god who gets turned into this little bunny. And then you play this girl who starts a curry restaurant. I forget, I think he has to eat curry to like power up or something. I just remember it was weird. It oddly revolved around curry, and then your rival had like an udon restaurant or something. But thematically, it was like, you know, all the characters talk about curry and stuff. It's curry themed, and then there was I think your rival's group was all like noodle themed. I think there was udon, soba, and a couple other people in his party. It was a fun, albeit a little bit on the easy side dungeon crawler. Or not dungeon crawler, but mystery dungeon. And this is another one I got when I got my Vita TV. I think this one got a remake. And I think the first one got ported too. Because at the time it was like just the second one is available. This is the one where you like have babies by holding hands and you like build up an army of children to go into dungeons and stuff. I was kind of just sold on the concept, but I didn't get very far in it. Still, not a bad game. And then I got Little Deviants, one of the launch titles. Figured to get it at least just to mess around with. It's got a bunch of mini games that kind of, you know, get you to use the touchscreen and all that. Yeah, for $5 I paid for it. Not bad. Here's Tales of Hearts. It was one of those Tales games I actually got kind of excited for. It was a GameStop exclusive, so I pre-ordered it. But I don't know, I played a good way into it, and it felt like kind of bland, but I guess it is a portable game. The combat's still okay, and it's just like the characters themselves felt kind of flat. Probably get back around to it eventually, because I know like Kohaku, this girl, she like gets her heart split, and then she like loses all her emotions, and you have to find the fragments, and then the fragments are like parts of her emotional complex. Like, oh, you get her her remorse or her sadness or her happiness or excitement back, and then it's like, oh, she kind of like dwells on one of the things that she gets back because she's like so focused on it. But just overall, it felt like you're just kind of like going from place to place, and it's like tiny things happen in each town, and you get a thing, and then you go to the next town. Who knows, maybe the story gets better. Oh yeah, Akiba strip. I like it when the Akiba strip. Actually, I think I bought this again later on PS4, but it was kind of interesting because it was like real life Akihabara, and you go around and they give you flyers, and they're like real flyers. Otherwise, it plays a little bit like a Yakuza game. It's basically like a beat 'em up with RPG elements. What are they called? I think they call them synths or something, but they're like vampires, and they're basically like nerds that get turned into vampires. And I think you get attacked in the beginning, so it's like, oh, they lure these nerds in with like nerdy stuff. They're like, you want these anime figures? And then they're like, yeah, I want these anime figures. And then they turn them into vampires, and they turn into dust when they're exposed to sunlight, but as long as they have clothes on, they're okay. So that was like the funny part of this game, is you comically strip them down to their boxers and they burn, and there's like crazy weapons and stuff. I haven't played any of the sequels, but this was fun enough. The concept was pretty fun. It was mostly comical. It didn't really go into the weird, perverted territory too often. And another one I haven't played, but Lost Dimension. I think this one was one of those games where it's like, oh, you kind of figure out who's betrayed you or going to betray you in your party, and you kind of like move to exclude them from your group or something. I can't remember. Yeah, I guess they're randomly determined. So you try to determine the traitor, and then you get a different ending depending on like who the traitor is and who you think it is, and act on. I haven't really played it, but I kind of just picked it up when it was cheap, anyways. Get around to it someday. And then we got the Senran Kagura Shinobi Versus. I got this one kind of just based on the fact that I never tried any of them. This was the first one that came out here, and I saw it for really cheap at a local game store. Wait, actually, this one's a GameStop. And I got it somewhere local. Yeah, I picked this up with Summon Night, and it was $20 each. I was surprised they even had Summon Night. I hear they're quote-unquote good, but I have yet to determine that for myself because I have not actually played it. We shall see. And then I got Trillion, God of Destruction. This one I was a little confused by. I was like, oh, it looks like a Disgaea game, but then I realized it's actually just a simulation game. Like, you raise the gods of destruction like they're pet monsters or something. It didn't really catch my interest too much after I started playing it. I was like, oh, you don't really do much. You kind of just raise them, and then, like, when they get to a point where you think they're ready, you can, like, fight a boss or something, but there's not. It's mostly the simulation part. And then I think I got this from a blind box at Limited Run. I played a little bit of it. It's a rhythm game. No, it's not really. It's got a plastered on sticker for the ESRB for some reason. I don't remember why. Maybe because they sold it at Best Buy. Who knows? It's an interesting rhythm game. It's all like piano based stuff. And then got Shinobito, Revenge of the Zen. It's a sequel to the one on PSP, but it plays kind of like a knockoff of Tenchu. That's a little different. I guess there's like clan-based stuff in there. I think there's more tools, and you start out with the grappling hook. I had fun with it, I just wasn't very good at it. And some of the controls were a little clunky on the Vita, but it's a fun game if you can find it for like $120. And you like ninjas, stealth games. And then I got Army Corps of Hell. You know, your light RTS, kind of like Pikmin or Little King's Story. Except it takes place in hell. The game's still in there. I haven't actually played it yet. I hear it's good. Got heavy metal as like the background music in the game, which is fitting. And then this one I have finished. Very atmospheric, like horror game. You basically like play a little girl who's looking for her lost dog at night, and there's like yokai and stuff that pop out and ghost. And of course you're like defenseless other than things to distract them. I had a lot of fun with it, because most of the atmospheric stuff, it's like, oh, you see like the lights flickering and stuff, and then stuff will kind of like pop up in the shadows, and it's just like seamless most of the time. It's not like really jump scares, but you know, stuff that's kind of creepy and unsettling. It plays more like a, you know, your typical adventure or not platformer puzzle game. And then I have the sequel too somewhere, which I haven't quite finished. I got Toki Kiwami. I intended to play this with a friend, but that didn't happen. But it's kind of like your Monster Hunter or whatever, you know, those style of games. Go hunt monsters and you get new weapons, and this one is all centered around Japan, so you fight yokai and stuff. Probably not bad, I just haven't played it much myself. I got Sword of Stranger City. I think this was another one of those games I picked up because I like the artwork. And it's a first-person dungeon crawler. I wonder if I saw it. Oh, I do still have the receipt. Oh, this one was $12.95. Yeah, so it's cheap. I think it's out on other stuff now, but probably good. And one I got, and I haven't got to, but I think it's more widely available. It's a sequel to, of course, the first one, but I remember one of the fun things about it was you could, one of the pieces of equipment was panties, and you could, like, leave notes like you can in Dark Souls for traps and stuff. That's kind of neat. Oh, there's the first one. They play a little bit of this one. I liked it. I never have enough time for all these RPGs. It's probably one of those things I'll get to. And of course, I bought the Final Fantasy X 10-2. That's probably the reason I got the memory card, so I could download 10-2 and then not play it. Because why would you? And it's got the postcards. Look at that. Oh, look. Ooh. Ah, where's Kimari? They don't have him on any of them. Oh, look at that. It's, what's her face? Pain. Pain bad. Yeah, one of the few Final Fantasies I liked, and I've been meaning to actually replay the HD one. I have it on PS3, so I figured cross-save with the Vita, baby! And there's the sequel to Yomawari, Night Patrol. Midnight Shadows. This one, it's basically, it centers around 2 girls instead of just one. And her friend, like, disappears and you have to try and find her. I haven't finished it yet. The puzzles are a little more involved. I believe, yeah, sometimes you get to play as the other girl and it's like her waking up in weird places and then crazy stuff happens. And then you switch back to the white-haired girl. And then you have to, like, go through the area where you just saw something crazy happen. Definitely good games. I think they're available on Steam and Switch. I recommend them a lot. They're very atmospheric, and there's not a whole lot like them. If you like stuff like Silent Hill, you'd probably like it. And of course, it's not as gory or violent, but it does have some of it in there. Oh, yeah. And I got Danganronpa V3. This is the one I'm currently playing. By currently, I mean sometimes I pick it up and start it. Probably have too many visual novels. I really liked the first game and then the second game. Probably more so the first game just because of the ending. The second one is still a big surprise, but, you know, it wasn't quite as good as the first one. We'll see about this one. I like how the characters, they're kind of played like tropes, but then as you play through it, it kind of undermines your expectations for those tropes, and it makes it feel a lot better as a game. Like, you know, they're not just lazy written tropes like certain games are. Let's see. And of course, the trial segments are just, they're pretty fun. Kind of reminds me of Phoenix Wright. I got One Way Heroics. Play a little bit of this one. It's kind of reminded me of 36 or Half Minute Hero. That's what it's called. I only played it like 1 or 2 times, but I believe you like get a mass of heroes and you're just basically trying to stage an assault on like this bad guy's stronghold every now and then. Not a bad game. You can probably get it on Steam for like $2. Yeah, there's Summon Night. It's put out by Gaijin Works. I believe it's Vic Ireland's studio that he founded after Working Designs. I've always kind of wanted to play these, and I figured I'd try 6, but I haven't really played it yet. I've been really behind on the tactical RPGs. It just takes so much time. But this one has the ever rare manual. Look at that. This is what GameStop customers used to call a book, and this one is actually pretty thick. It's probably like the only Vita game that has a manual. So if I remember right, people were asking him, it was him or someone else, and they were saying that they actually cost extra to make a manual. Like, they penalize you for putting a manual in there. It's not like you can, oh, it's just a normal cost. It's like, no, they penalize you because they don't want that in there. Which is strange to me. I got Sword Fart Online. This is the Asia English version with the English translation. It was a fun, like, action RPG. It kind of reminded me of Phantasy Star, but you're basically playing a full RPG. I didn't get too far on it, but I hear this one's pretty fun. probably on other stuff nowadays. And they're Super Beat Sonic. I played quite a bit of this one. I actually bought it on PS4 too. It's kind of like DJ Max, but the buttons layout is more simplified. It's like you're going down a tunnel and you just hit the sides. I liked it. I'm never very good at these anymore, but I like them. Next up, we got Metal Gear. You got Raiden. You got Snake. You got the Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, strangely missing the first Metal Gear. I kind of bought this while it was still cheap at GameStop because I was like, yeah, it's got transferring, and I got the PS3 collection, so I could transfer that. I like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. I've been meaning to go back and play them for a long time, but every time I pick them up, I'm like, this control scheme feels really weird. But I did play the crap out of them back on PS2 and 3. It was one of those games where like my friend was playing it and we talked a lot about it. And the weird stuff you could do in it, especially with 3. Like eating the mushrooms or making them spin around on the menu and throw up. All kinds of stuff. Good games. Pretty solid ports. Worth it if you have the PS3 version as well. So you can transfer. And then I got Persona. Dancing all night. I mean, they got good music, fun rhythm games. I recommend them. I actually just rebought this technically on PS4 because I bought the collection combo pack that comes with the PS4 version of this. Because otherwise, I don't think you can buy Persona 4 on PS4 separately, like the Dancing All Night game. It's only part of that weird combo pack, which is still odd to me. So it's worth it. I never really got into the story. It's basically like trying to give them a reason to like be hanging out with idols and doing stuff on stage. But, you know, they have a full-blown story there if you want it. Oh yeah, and then there's Virtue's Last Reward. I really like the story in these games, how it comes together. This one has a lot more sci-fi to it. I like the ending too. It was a little meh in one part because I won't ruin it, but a post-game sequence made me kind of wonder about the sequel, but it never really came up in the sequel, so, as far as I played. A fun visual novel style game with like escape room puzzle elements. Very cool sci-fi twist. The only thing I didn't like is, you know, you get to a point in the game where it's like, this is really fun, but I keep getting the same ending, and then you have to follow a guide to like see the rest of it. Unless you pick up on like very subtle stuff, because some of it's very specific. Of course, you can't go wrong with Sly Cooper. Of course, I own these on like every platform. I had to have it on Vita. I think, yeah, this was from the RLS, so I probably just got it for $10 anyways, or less. And then, of course, they had the code for the third one, which is part of the reason I bought the memory card. Great games, no matter how you play them. First one, maybe is a little rough around the edges, still really good. Second one, probably the best. Third one, good, but too many characters. Kind of watered down the experience, but they're good no matter what platform you put them on. It's a shame that they kind of gave up on it. Speaking of which, this is the last one. I actually didn't really play it much on Vita. I just played it on PS3 at the time, and then I got the Vita one later. I was anticipating playing it again, then I'm like, oh, everything carries over. But still fun game. Pretty neat that they managed to put a PS3 and Vita game out at the same time, and there's like a weird feature where if you have the Vita game, you can put your Vita up to the TV on the PS3 version, and it'll like, it's basically like a visor that you can use to like see secret stuff in the PS3 game. That fourth one was good too. That Phase in Time. I highly recommend that one. And then, actually, I dropped it. But I imported this when they announced it. I thought it would come out with Freedom Wars, because these two were shown at the same like Sony event. They're coming out at the same time. They're like, oh look, we're finally localizing these games, and then they push this one, and then this one's just kind of like, they're like, you can get a PSN release. I was pretty interested after hearing that it was based off a classic like PS1 series. I really like the art style, and I like the premise. It's just in practice, it meant compounded grinding. It's like, You have to grind to get money. You have to use that money to grind out the gods to get better kids, and then you have to grind those kids. Well, I guess they grow up pretty fast, so they're not really kids very long, but you grind them out to level up, but you gotta do it in a certain time frame before they get too old. Otherwise, you just do it again. It got a little old because it got harder to like keep up with the getting the stronger descendants and also getting better weapons at the same time. And I kind of came to a standstill at the last boss, and I was like, I don't really like grinding in this game. It's not very rewarding because it's not like you can just put in the time and like level up and get stuff. It's like you have to keep cycling the descendants out, and then you have to keep making new ones, but you also want to get to a point where you can make good ones when you need them. Still an interesting game. I don't know if it's worth buying physically now because it's probably stupid expensive for some reason. But it is definitely something worth experiencing because there's not a whole lot like it, except for maybe like Rogue Legacy. It's kind of hard to, I don't know, compare it to anything because it's an RPG. And it also had lots of ferret puns in it. I think this is one of my more recent pickups. I kind of just picked it up because I was like, you don't see Vita games very often anywhere, and this was fairly cheap and I didn't have it. You know, Monkey Ball's not bad. I think I played a little bit of this one. I actually got the receipt next time. Yeah, it was $11.99 at Disc Traders. It's like, I never see Vita games in the wild. And even when it was current, you would only see them at GameStop. You may be like a local game shop if you're lucky. And of course, when Odin Spear came out, I bought it on PS3, Vita, and then later on PS4. I played a lot of it on Vita, just because of the portability. I actually remember playing it on a plane to New York, and playing Prince Cornelius's, and I was like, oh, I'm playing the game, and people are gonna look and they're like, look, I'm playing a game with a bunny in it. Excellent game. I would highly recommend the HD version, even if you're like stuck on the PS2 version, like I have to play the original, because I'm pretty sure this one has it, but for sure the PS3 and PS4, it's like on the main menu, you can just choose the PS2 version if you want. It's like in there wholesale. And of course, Danganronpa 2. This one's fun. It takes place on an island without spoiling too much. And then there's some returning characters. It's kind of hard to talk about these games without spoiling it. But again, it's like, you know, a lot of like neat turnabouts. Kind of like Phoenix Wright, except, you know, it's the people in your cast that are dying. It's not like, you know, you're picking up a case of some people you don't really know, and then sometimes there's someone you do know that's involved. Yeah, these are all good, great games. If you like Phoenix Wright, you like visual novels, you like detective stories, boom, Danganronpa. Stylized, detective, action. I always thought it was cool that they made all the blood pink to kind of take the edge off it. And then, of course, here's the odd one of the series. This takes place between 1 and 2, if I remember right. You play as the main character's sister from the first one. You have a megaphone and you use it to shoot hacks at Monokuma robots. You hit them in the bat-shaped eye. It's fun. It was kind of like a third-person action-y adventure game. It wasn't a ton of puzzle solving, but a lot of fun story elements, and of course they had like that cheeky sense of humor where they poke fun at the people making the game. I liked it. There's even some parts that made it seem like it was going to be like some weird pervy game, and then it kind of flips it on you. I won't spoil it. Good game though. If you don't like the other ones, I would say maybe try it, but if you like the other ones, it's like, oh, here's a nice diversion from a visual novel. And then I got Persona 4 Golden. This is like the first time I played through Persona 4 was on this. I think it took me like 80 hours and I got the true ending. I guess it was the definitive version, but, you know, still fun. I like having it portable because I could just, you know, do the grindy parts, you know, when you're running through a dungeon while I'm watching TV or something. I don't think I paid that much for it either. Oh, it's got a Bleach GameStop receipt. How much is it? Let's see. Oh. I was looking for this. I was looking for this receipt just the other day. You can see how much I bought Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for $9 on December 30th, 2013. And it's the same copy I have on the shelf over here. I was looking at it, I thought I put it in here. Because it's like a flawless copy of the game, other than the manual is like a little rough, but I put that in there. I'll remember that forever, because I'm like, when this game first came out, I was like, you know what, I'll probably never be able to afford it, because it's expensive and hard to find. And then, oh, what shows up on the day they go 75% off PS2 games because they get rid of them? Oh, Marvel vs. Capcom. And who still has an employee discount? I did. It was like perfect. I have no idea why it was in the box for that game. Let's see. Persona. Oh yeah, it is on there. It's on a different receipt. Persona Golden. You can't really see it, but it says 1376. That was in... Oh yeah, that was also the same day. That's probably the receipt. Right, the receipt was in there. And then I remember getting this too. I was really interested in the gameplay, more so at first because it was inspired by Grandia, which it did play like a lot like Grandia with, you know, the little action bar at the bottom. It was fairly fun. It was kind of like, you know, storybook aesthetics, and you collect kind of like fairy tale-ish characters. You know, it's just relatively like easygoing game. I liked it a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, they're talking rhyme, how dare they? Well, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not like it's voiced or anything most of the time. I'd say it's worth trying. I'm sure it's super cheap on Steam or whatever. It's probably out on everything. I just remember picking up this one because that was the first thing I saw it on. And then I bought this, but I didn't play it very much because I got the PS4 version, and I realized the PS4 version is like the enhanced version of this game. It's kind of like Tokyo Xanadu, but this one takes place in the future in Tokyo, and you're a kid going to school, and I did like it. It was just, the beginning is like, you know, you gotta be bogged down, like learning all the stuff you can do in school and meeting everybody. I'm like, I'll get around to it someday. And then Dragon's Crown, I have it on PS3, PS4, and Vita. I did play a little bit on Vita. I think there was something weird, like you couldn't do cross-play with the Vita, so I ended up not playing as much, because I was hoping to be like, oh, I could just, you know, play it on my Vita and then play online with someone else, that way we can both level up, but that didn't happen. Still, Dragon Crown is worth it, especially on PS4 nowadays. And then I got my copy of Digimon Cyber Sleuth. This is one of the few Digimon games I have finished. I really like the story. It kind of recontextualized Digimon as like hacker programs rather than just like being like, oh, they're digital monsters. Not a lot of the story elements involve like real life stuff, but it's like, oh, you have to figure out why this air conditioner is malfunctioning, and then the main character can like basically like jump into the internet because his body is stuck in limbo, like his mind is stuck inside cyberspace, but his body is like in a coma because he was playing a VR game. So you can like kind of jump in and out. I really like the story, and it was kind of like one of those games that's set in real life Japan, so you kind of run around like Shibuya, I believe, and I want to say Akihabara. I think it was mostly Shibuya, but fun game, interesting story. There's a sequel that kind of picks up directly where this one left off. And of course, the first Danganronpa. Little did we know that in Japan, 1 and 2 were on the same cartridge, but they figured since we didn't get them in the first place, they'd print them separately to make more money. But I guess that's understandable. They probably took longer to translate the game anyway, since it's 90% text. Great game. I recommend it. They're re-releasing it on Switch, so even if you want to get a physical version, you can get that one, or you can get it on Steam. I'm pretty sure it's widely available. And then one of the first games I played on the Vita was on a demo, and it was Gravity Rush. And I was like, this game's pretty cool. And then my friend's like, what else is there? And I was like, I don't know, but this game's pretty cool. And I actually got this with my Vita. And I bought it again on PS4. Liked it a lot. The comic book aesthetic was pretty interesting. Reminded me a little bit of Infamous, but it was more like fantasy, like a French comic. And then, of course, you know, all the game elements like shifting gravity and using the touch controls and the gyro controls and all that. They, for the most part, they were pretty interesting. There's some parts where it got kind of sticky, where it's like, oh, you're floating around upside down, and it's like, and it's very disorienting, but a fun action sandbox game. I would recommend 1, and even though I haven't played it, I'd probably recommend 2. And I believe it has a soundtrack by Kohei Tanaka. They do a lot of anime, and I think they've done a few games besides this too. I think one of the other ones was Alundra. Excellent game, though. I like that they pretend that the Vita version didn't exist. They're like, not the Vita version. This is not Vita game. It is PS4 game. You want sequel. It's ridiculous. They can't just like call it out and be like, we made this good game, so you should freaking play it. Actually, I kind of like this game. I had fun with it when I was playing it on PS3, and I ended up buying it on Vita because for whatever reason, these games like constantly ping a server and upload your save data or something. And it kept corrupting mine, so I replayed the first episode like 3 times, and then I thought it was good, and I got to like episode 3, and then it was just, you know, it corrupted my save. And I'm like, you know what? I can play the Vita without connecting to the internet, and it won't corrupt my save for some unknown reason that it's doing it for, and I played it here. Not too bad. There's just some weird glitches that kind of halted progression a couple times, which threw me off. But, you know, it's a typical Telltale game. And this one's still sealed. It's another one of those first-person dungeon crawler games with really nice artwork that I kind of got interested in. I haven't played it yet, obviously, but it might be good. There's a lot of games like that. And of course, you gotta have your Uncharted. It's off the chart and Into the Golden Abyss. I had fun with this one. Definitely a good Uncharted game for portable. It did have some gimmicks where you like use charcoal to do impressions, which was kind of neat. And then I believe it had something like where you could touch the rear touchpad to like hone in your shot when you're aiming. The only thing I didn't like was like the last. There might have been a couple bosses, but the last boss in particular had a lot of QTEs where it's like, you have to swipe the screen, and it's like, come on, and it's like, no, you missed, and then you like do it again, it's like, well, you missed. That was kind of annoying, but overall, if you like Uncharted, you will probably like this game. As long as it doesn't command a extreme price these days. And actually, I've been playing this one a little bit too, every now and then. Those 3D models don't look as great on the Vita. I imagine they probably don't on PS3 either, but it's a decent-ish, like, semi-open world Spider-Man game. It kind of gives you some places to like swing around, but it's mostly like a hub area where it's like, you're gonna go to this building to go into this mission, or this is where you go to your hideout. Not a bad game. Definitely PS4 one better, but an admirable attempt. And then I got another Sword Art game that I haven't played. It's, yeah, I think this one was just cheap, and I was like, oh, the first one was kind of fun because I was playing that at the time. Let's see. Oh, maybe it wasn't cheap. Yeah, either way. I have it. It's probably like the first one. Someday I'll play it. And then I got Danboru Senki. Cardboard Warriors. Otherwise... Oh, Danboru Senki Daboru. Oh, W. I guess that would be appropriate. But it got localized as LBX over here on 3DS. I don't think we got any of the other ones, and we even got a little bit of the anime. It's pretty much about, like, there's these remote-controlled robots, and they're called Cardboard Warriors, because they're little warrior robots that they fight in, like, these high-tech cardboard arenas that can, like, withstand battles and stuff. So it's like, you know, real robot battles on the scale of, like, you know, a toy like this big. I really like the 3DS one. There's a lot of customization options, like you get different parts and you can, like, spec out your robot, and then some of them are made to resemble, you know, like more well-known robots, but some of them are kind of like offhanded references. And then some of them are level 5 games own robots, like the White Knight from White Knight Chronicles. I just don't like the story because sometimes it feels like it takes itself too seriously. Like in the 3DS one, you stop the assassination of the president, and it shows a sniper like putting a tiny sniper rifle together for his tiny little robot that he's going to shoot the president with. And I was like, oh, game, you're ridiculous. And then I got this guy at 4. This is probably the most recent disc I haven't started playing. I haven't finished 3 or 4. I've beaten the ones before that, at least. I kind of got this because this was the definitive way to play 4 at the time, but now it's like... It still kind of is, but they have like the Switch version. But since I sunk 30 hours into it, I'll probably finish it here. And then I kind of bought this one to maybe start it on here, but then I have a game save on PS3. So mostly, at least I have 3. For whatever reason. And then again, it's like one of those Monster Hunter style games, but this one, you start out and you're like going back and reliving stuff to try and power up to beat the, what was it, like the King of the Underworld or something? But there's like these twisted fairy tales that you like go into, and you beat the monsters. I believe you sacrifice, I want to say it was your life, but you know, it's the soul sacrifice part is like you're basically like dealing damage to yourself to use certain special skills. It's another one of those kind of multiplayer-oriented games that I've been meaning to try, and this is like the, you know, the definitive variant of it, and they did a reprint last year, so I picked it up from PlayAsia. I haven't got around to it. I have the regular version somewhere. Oh, actually, it's right underneath it. There it is. I flipped the cover right around. Oop. Oh, it was one of those games that had an online pass. Remember when they tried to do that? I was miserable working at GameStop. Get a used game, and like some of them, they would just print off one for free just because GameStop paid for them, and then other times you'd be like, yeah, if you want to play this game online, you'd have to pay $3. And it's like, ah, terrible times to be alive. This one I got a while ago. I want to try it eventually. I know it has a good soundtrack, and it's another one of those kind of Monster Hunter style games, Ragnarok. Your mercenaries taking on quests and junk. Get around to it someday. Same thing with this one. This game is like dirt cheap. It's a Tri-Ace game with a Motoi Sakuraba soundtrack. So those two things alone make it probably pretty excellent. It's just I don't think my Japanese is up to snuff, but I would like to give it a shot. Because it looked like it was more action-y and single-player oriented than the other Phantasy Star Online games. You know, it's more set in the Phantasy Star Online universe, but it's not actually online. But, you know, if you want to pick it up, it's like, I think I imported this one, it was like $17 after shipping. This is one I remember getting at a local game shop. I was like, I'm not a huge Silent Hill fan, but I'll give this game a shot. It's WayForward. They seem to do, like, I don't know, sometimes they do really good licensed games, like, unexpectedly good. I mean, this isn't a licensed game, but they do pretty good. I remember this one getting kind of negative reviews because it was a more roguelike dungeon crawler game, but I don't think I paid more than like $15 for it, so I was like, I'll give it a shot. At the time, it was like Vita games were like hard to come by. I'm like, if I don't have it, I might give it a shot for how cheap it is. And I got Smart Ass. I think I actually got this at the same game store when they were closing. It was like $2, and I was like, oh yeah. Then I go like, you know what game's the best game on Vita? Smart Ass, you smart ass. I used to say that all the time when I worked at GameStop. My guy would always like playing that smart ass. Make you a smart ass. And then I got the sequel that I started playing. It kind of picks up where the other one left off, like with a different character. I've only played like maybe an hour into it. Yeah, still same combat and everything from the first one. I imagine it's still pretty good. And I have both of these physically too. This, I don't know if you can see it on here. This is like the Asian version. Yeah. But they're in English. I think you just can't download the little thing for the special Digimon. games actually in there. Oh, and one of my last games. I got this on the PS4 as well because I never heard of it, and then I found out it was like released mostly through online distributors. I want to say it had someone notable. Yeah, there he is, from the Zero Escape series. It doesn't say his name. I can't remember it now. But it's kind of like Haunting starring Poltergeist on the Sega Genesis. I forget what happens to the kid, but he gets like superpowers, and he can basically, he's like a ghost, and you can go around and like possess stuff and move stuff around. And I think he gets more powerful as he gets aroused by like looking at girls' panties or whatever. But if he gets too excited, he gets a nosebleed, and then he dies and the world explodes. It was like this very over-the-top anime where it seems like on the surf, like when you hear the premise, you're like, oh, that sounds like some stupid pervy stuff. But then it's like, oh no, it's just like a fun puzzle game, and you're supposed to like just skirt the idea of like looking at their panties, because if you look too long, then you just die. It seemed fun, and there's like not very many games like that, and I heard it was pretty good. I guess it plays more like an episodic anime where you're like interacting with stuff, but it's one of those games I need to try, obviously, since I haven't opened it yet. And I think that's it for my Vita games. I think most of my other stuff, maybe I'll put up in another video because it's all limited edition stuff. So it's just like in big boxes in a bin somewhere in the house. And I got like these cards that came with Demo and Ray Gigant since they're limited run game things. I got a checklist on the back for those people who are like, I have to have everything on the list. Oh, and maybe I'll do a PSP game thing someday, but I had a bunch of these slipcovers for Duo. Oh wait, no, this was just the first one. This Dissidia. The fantasy is never set in form until it's finalized as Final Fantasy. Yeah, I have a bunch of these for some reason. I think these are probably getting tossed at GameStop, and I was like, man, they're kind of cool slip cases. They got the embossed lettering, and it's shiny, kind of like the Lunar books used to have. But I think that'll do it for Captain Usopp's Game Corner. If you like them, please let me know. Otherwise, I can do the other stuff. I still got my Game Boy games and other things I could do. I guess, as they say in Japan, please like and subscribe.